Welcome to Tech in Translation, the podcast where we break down the complexities of today's most innovative technologies into something we can all understand.
Brought to you by Ironbow Technologies, a next-generation solutions provider. We're committed to helping our customers across the government, education, commercial, and healthcare sectors turn their tech challenges into real, actionable outcomes.
At Ironbow, we believe that technology should be a tool for empowerment, not a source of confusion.
That's why each episode of Tech in Translation is designed to demystify the latest trends, tools, and technologies, making them accessible for everyone, whether you're a seasoned professional or just tech curious.
Join us as we translate complex tech into everyday language, one episode at a time. Welcome back to Tech in Translation. I'm your host for today, Fran Elatrosh Ukejiofo. In this episode, we're tackling one of the most common and costly questions in tech. Why do projects fail? We'll dig into the often overlooked causes, blurry roles, miscommunication, and leadership gaps, and explore what it actually takes to deliver. Joining us is Cynecia Harris, Vice President of Services at Ironbow. Cynecia, thank you so much for joining us. To kick us off, why do you think so many people confuse project management, program management, and service delivery?
Hey there, Fran. Well, that's a great question. Project management is really one large or small, medium size, whatever it is, discrete project with a definitive beginning and a definitive end, right? So bam, bam, you start it, you end it, and you're done. Programs for PMI industry standards would pretty much classify multiple projects of similar scope. So let's say we're building a house and the project is paint a bunch of rooms. Okay, we're doing, 15 rooms. Well, that would be considered kind of a program from an IT perspective. Multiple projects within similar scopes. We also have portfolios, which are different projects or programs that are interrelated. So you can have a bunch of different projects, a bunch of different programs. They're all interrelated and serving a purpose or an outcome from a customer. So that would be a portfolio. And then IT service management is really operations. So these things are meant to go on forever, never end, never have a definitive ending date. We don't want them to end because then that means that we're not continuing to service customers. So one starts, one stops, one's a collection of a bunch of those, and one just goes on forever and ever, which is what we would like. So more or less.
I love that, and I love the house analogy too. I'm sure it runs throughout your life, both professional and personal, with all your skill sets. So that's really helpful for painting the differentiation between each. What are the distinct goals and roles within each of the frameworks you just laid out?
Great question, Fran. I mean, when it comes to projects, it's obviously achieving the outcome that the customer wants, right? We have again, we're building a house, right? Did you get your kitchen? Did you get your bathrooms? Did you get your bedrooms? Is the house complete at the end of the overall initiative? If it is, then you've met the goal. Programs, you kind of, again, with the house analogy, maybe we start off building one house, and then the whole expectation is that we're going to build a neighborhood, right? We start off as a general contractor. Let's see if you do good. Now we've got multiple people that want to buy houses, and we're doing a development. So programs are meant to continue to evolve and grow, and we're able to have some minor successes with some smaller initiatives or smaller projects that lead into larger opportunities. So that's kind of the goal of programs, is to continue to grow within the scope and expand within the customer install base. When it comes to IT service management, think of the right service at the right time. We've got a lawn service. What you're expecting from that is that somebody's going to show up every time when the lawn needs to be cut. You don't have to call them every day. You don't have to do this last minute, hey, can you come cut my grass today? It's somebody's going to show up at the right time, water your grass, cut the grass. It's kind of a subscription model. They take care of you. They show up exactly when they need to be there without you having to constantly engage in, smaller little initiatives or making last minute phone calls and trying to arrange things. So that type of model is really about having the right service at the right time, and that you have some sort of negotiation or some sort of engagement where it's ongoing and it never ends. And those are the things that, from a business perspective, keep us having, recurring revenue and continue to have some predictability in the types of customers that we need to service and what they'd like.
I love that. And continuing on with the house analogy, because of course now I'm obsessed. But You've got the lawn guy, and what if they're overlapping and now trying to help do the kitchen, or the plumber's
Right.
trying to do the lawn. So how can teams prevent role overlap from causing all that confusion?
I think the important part is, and this is something that I've chatted a lot about with some of my colleagues. The hot buzzwords are customer experience and making sure that everyone has the best of everything. And I go, really, what customers want from us is that they want us to be able to do our jobs and do them well. And everybody has a discrete role and responsibility in this whole ecosystem. I think a lot of times people will sometimes in the industry want to do more for the sake of customer experience. And I'm like, hey, all you got to do is do what you were hired to do. All you got to do is focus on your specialty and stay within your swim lane. I think a lot of times people will overlap with their roles and responsibilities and kind of get out of those boundaries because they think that that's what the customer wants. And I go, that's not what the customer wants. They just want you to make sure that you are delivering on what they contracted you to do and that you have gone through the proper training, that you have the appropriate skill sets or the required certifications in order to provide the service, and that you're qualified to deliver, what their outcomes are. It's really that simple. If I'm a cook, I can't go and, be the plumber, right? So I just got to do what I need to do.
Exactly. And I
Yeah,
love how you put it in that context. We say all the buzzwords and
right.
customer experience, but it's just really that obvious. It's just, can you do what you say you're going to do and
It's
deliver?
that obvious.
Exactly. Well, taking it back for me, this is a personal example, but I remember during my public policy courses at American University, we had to take a project management course and learn all about the Gantt charts. And that was just a nightmare. But beyond checklists and Gantt charts, um, in the real world context, as you shared, how do we focus teams on real business outcomes?
I love that one. Well, PMs tend to be very analytical people. They want to be able to have their task list and say, yes, I did this, I did that. But what's really important is engaging with the customer along the way that the work is progressing. What you don't want to do is have this big project and you say, hey, I built you this. This is not what they wanted. We have a couple of different methodologies. You could do something called a waterfall methodology, which is kind of, ta-da, here's the house. It's all done at the very end. Or you could do something like an agile methodology, which is basically saying, I'm going to build you the house, but let's build your bathroom. Do you like that? Okay, great. Now let's move on to your basement. Do you like that? Let's move on to, the living room, so on and so forth, and kind of be able to demonstrate along the way the work progress. So there's a couple of different methodologies that PMs and people can use from a delivery approach. I think that basically engaging with the customer along the way, showing the progress and getting their concurrence is where you're going to make sure that at the end of the engagement that you hadn't missed the mark. That oftentimes will happen if people do not plan or do not understand truly the requirements up front, and then at the end the customer doesn't get the work product that they're looking for or it didn't meet their expectations. So it's really important to be able to communicate and ensure that the work that is being performed aligns with the costs that are being spent or consumed, and that it also aligns with the customer, and having those consistent check-ins and, did you sign off on the design, or do you like this, or, what is your time frame or timelines, and getting those requirements up front and then checking along the way is really going to be a recipe for success.
Which is why I'm so glad we have folks like you leading the charge and making sure to check all those requirements along the way. I mean, there's so many aspects and logistics to handle. So hats off to you all for that. And you paint a very good example of like the what, right? Like it's like deliver what the customer asked for and what we said we're going to do. But what can PMs and others do to help people connect with the why behind the work?
I believe that a lot of times you have to be a very interested person too, right? Why are we doing this project? What problem are we trying to solve? And why is this problem existing? I always tell people where there's chaos, there's opportunity. And so that's kind of the why factor. Usually there's projects or initiatives being done because there's a problem that needs to be solved. So if you kind of have like a nosy personality and you're inquisitive and you're
Fair,
thinking,
I do.
yeah, like, hey, why are we doing this, right? I think it will come out naturally. I think that a lot of people like to talk about their problems and kind of the challenges that they're having, in a positive way. I think PMs or people who are scoping initiatives or trying to figure that out, that's really the main crux of what is this project about. Sometimes people will not find meaning in doing those Gantt charts or those work breakdown structures and all that tedious stuff. But it's really like if you understand the mission behind it, it's going to help you drive to meet that customer's outcome. So it's really important to know the why up front and then to kind of keep that in your perspective as you're doing those meeting minutes or doing some of those remedial things that people sometimes are like, that's not exciting, but it's necessary to get the job done.
Yes. And are you saying also maybe that you and your team get to play part-time therapists
All
sometimes?
the time, all the time. Tell me your problems.
I love it. So, how does product management interact with service delivery, just in terms of those frameworks?
Product management, usually somebody who is a product manager will have a PM type, a project management type of background. They're very phase driven. They know how to work within a specific methodology and they follow and work within that methodology. Product management is really developing a new product or a new solution for a customer that is going to be repeatable, something that will consistently sell, or that customers are going to consistently want to buy. Project management has to learn about these products or these solutions and these services and what does it take to deliver this new solution. So product management is kind of out there thinking, oh, this is the hot thing, we need to be working on this. Well, they got to teach it to somebody because they don't have the time to go out and do
Right.
delivery. What they're going to do is then transition that solution or that product to service delivery for us to have delivery enablement and basically say, hey, this is how you deliver it, this is what this solution is about, this is the success criteria of this solution, so that when these solutions get deployed or are implemented and we're collecting data on them, we have an understanding of if those solutions are successful within a customer environment. So it's very they're working on the front end trying to figure out what is it that we need to be doing and qualifying the different success criteria or the different metrics to show that this is a good solution. And then service delivery is learning about that, implementing it, and then tracking it throughout its life cycle.
That's a really helpful differentiation breakdown, especially product management and service delivery. And I think people often conflate the two as well as project management. So, in terms of the role of IT service teams in adapting to the market shifts and monitoring performance data, where do they?
IT service management. So, if we have a solution that we're going to be maintaining long term, we have so many different things that we like to look at and collect metrics and data. And everybody's like, oh, why do we look at that stuff? And it's really because we want to make sure that that solution is sustainable or working within the customer environment or looking at the data to see if there's trends that say maybe we need to offer them something different. If I buy a television and I put it on my wall, for example, and it's super small, well, maybe that wasn't the right solution for me. That solution might work great for you. Maybe you have more wall space and hey, you continue to buy more televisions, you got more wall space. Cynecia doesn't because she doesn't have the right infrastructure, right? So you kind of have to look at those different success criteria and determine, is this the right solution within the customer environment after it gets into production? IT service management is able to look at those trends and potentially offer new solutions or say, hey, maybe we need to evolve this solution within your environment because the data is providing us feedback or endpoints or input or whatever the case may be that shows that we need to pivot or that, this is sustaining and it's working great.
I love it. And I feel like you already laid this out earlier in terms of we've got to deliver what we said we're going to deliver and what the customer wants. But for some reason, service level agreements or SLAs, they still tend to get ignored or there's a lot of scope creep. So why are they actually critical?
Oh, I love SLAs and I love metrics. I think the metrics and SLAs are going to tell us a lot about one, the customer environment, and two, how are we actually doing? Are we making, ticket management? Are we closing out tickets in their time frames? Are we answering phone calls in their time frames? If we're not, then what's the driving factor? Is there a lot of environmental issues at the customer end? Do we have enough staff? Do we have enough people, right? If we're constantly missing our phone calls, is it because we're tied up with another customer? What is the data actually showing? If you don't have those SLAs or those metrics there, you may have a sense of feeling that something's off, but you don't really have anywhere to go and investigate and be able to make the corrections. It's just like, everything's chaotic. We're not making this, or the customer's unhappy. Well, let's pull out the data. Let's say, what are they unhappy about? Are we not meeting their goals or their outcomes? And if so, what are we doing about it? Is it something on the customer and some workflow process, or do they have the right resources? You got to share the data to be able to do an action.
Yeah, and I feel like it makes sense like why organizations always miss that and when they just treat SLAs as documentation or
Right.
checklists to be met. So you really nailed it there. All right, so shifting gears a little bit, again, definitely applicable to the personal realm, be it marriage, whatnot, but communication, always the root cause of failed initiatives, and as is the case here. So why is that the case in terms of, project management and everything you laid out?
Communication is the number one thing for projects. Now, I'm a numbers girl, so I like numbers too, right? And all the data and all that. But at the end of the day, it's really about communication. I always think about this game that we played as children, the game of telephone. And I said the color yellow, and then the next person says yellow, yellow, mustard, gold. And then at the end of the day, we're like in a totally different color and it's green once it gets through all these different resources. I think that when it comes to this is why meeting minutes and documentation is really important so that people have clarity. Again, meeting the customer's outcomes. If I said that I wanted something yellow and at the end somebody else heard green or gold after we go through all these different channels of communication, then my objectives are not being met. So I think it's really important for people to be able to run effective meetings, get what they need from those conversations and those discussions, really engage with the customer to understand that they know that their requirements and then communicate that they understood and that they heard what the customer was looking for. A lot of times people interpret things differently. And so sometimes you just got to put it in plain English and say, this is what you said. Do you agree? Yes. And gain concurrence.
Preach, sister. Yes, just yes to all of this. And I think you've already answered it in terms of better communication, obviously getting nosy and getting to know your customers and understand their why, being a little bit of a therapist. But are there other ways project managers can get better at working with people and not just the timelines?
It's really important to understand what motivates people. Everybody's motivated a little bit differently. Some people have more extroverted personalities and they like the gift of gab. And then other people are more introverted and like to spend time doing self reflection or solving problems independently. It just really depends on kind of what motivates that person. I think good leaders and good project managers, program managers, anybody who is managing anything has to really understand what motivates their stakeholders and their team, right? We've got all these disparate types of personalities that need to come together to achieve a goal or an outcome. But what motivates me may not motivate you, Fran, or, Joe Smith or whomever. And so it's really getting to know your team and getting to know the client and being able to adjust and adapt to what they need in order to achieve those goals. So it's a lot of psychology that happens in project management, a lot of different skill sets that come together. And I think that if people understand how to look at the people themselves as opposed to just the numbers and the different deliverables, they'll be able to have better outcomes and really work within a more effective team.
Yeah, and as you said, psychology plays a huge role, and obviously finding out what motivates maybe the customer. How do you find what truly motivates team members, especially the really technical, maybe introverted
Oh,
ones?
those techie guys, I tell you. um, Engineers, they're such an interesting, you have so many different types of engineers. You can have engineers that are really on the sales side that could just, sell a concept, sell water to the well. And then you have those people who are really just working in ones and zeros and ones. And they have different things that really get them excited about their jobs. I feel like a lot of the engineers, they're very, especially if you're dealing with that type that's the one and zeros and just wants to kind of, be on their own. I think a way that to communicate with those types of resources is less is more, right? Give the task, be clear, be concise, let them do what they do and augment some of those things. Because a lot of times engineers don't tend to be great writers, right? They're just really into the technical piece. PMs can kind of come in and help translate those things, help with documentation, help them so that they can do what they're good at and project management can do what they're good at. But they get motivated by new technology, new solutions, new problems. And I do think that as the world goes round and we continue to have new objectives or new challenges that occur within, our country or within the world, it will continue to evolve new technology, which is what they love to do. So got to pay attention to everything going on in the world.
Hey, amen to that. And I love that hot tip for motivating your techie teams. So that's a great, great piece of advice. Shifting gears a little bit here, in a previous conversation you and I had, you had phrased it as baby ugly or pretty with the dress on. So, what does it mean in the context of honest project reporting and delivery quality?
I do think that there's different styles and different approaches to telling customers unfortunate news. Maybe we missed that deliverable. Maybe we missed the timeline. I do think that it's really important to communicate what happened and what had occurred, but this is what we're going to do about it. Sometimes people will just say, that baby's ugly and it is what it is, and there's nothing we can do about it. And I go, no, as project management and leaders of projects and engagements, we always have to be achieving and looking for how we're going to solve that problem. listen, the baby's ugly, but if we put a dress on her, she's going to be so pretty, right? And get them to have concurrence and get them to understand that we are doing everything that we can to make our commitments and turn maybe a negative issue into something that's more positive. And that's what customers want from us. They want honesty so that they can trust us and they want us to follow through. I need you to do this and we're going to do it and keep those commitments. So I always tell people, I'm like, yeah, the situation may be bad, but this is what we're going to do about it. And this is how we're going to achieve this problem or this issue that we're encountering. So I always use that analogy.
Yeah, that's got to be a hard conversation to have.
Yeah.
That's super helpful. So many good nuggets of wisdom, I feel like, on house building, on life, but also especially on, technical delivery, service delivery, product management, project management. So, Cynecia, if you had to give one piece of advice to someone leading a whole tech delivery effort, what would it be?
Embrace the chaos, embrace the change. I think in technology, things are forever evolving, right? There's new problems that come out in the world. There's always new problems that need to be solved. There's new technology that's going to do that. You got AI, SD-WAN, all these different things that are kind of out there in the industry. And people have to be willing to change and to adapt to that. The things that we used to do 10, 15 years ago, 5 years ago, a lot of those things become obsolete. If you think of yourself as a consumer, and we used to have like the old telephone, the rotary phones, right? Now we've evolved into, the iPhones or cellular phones or whatever the case may be. You think about how technology has evolved and has helped you to adapt and to be more flexible or more efficient. And that's really what we want to do for our customers. So I always tell people, you got to think about the bigger picture. Get out of your own feelings and your own emotions about maybe this is hard, maybe this is challenging, and think about things that are going to happen for the greater good. And be willing to roll up your sleeves and accept that everything is always changing all the time.
Embrace the chaos, embrace the
Do the
change.
change.
So,
Yep.
love it. All right. Lastly, looking ahead, how do you see project and service delivery evolving with all the new technologies, like you said, in the landscape and the new methodologies, AI tools, hybrid teams?
Hybrid teams have been kind of around for a while, right? I mean, a lot of projects, you've got people that live all over the country doing projects all over the place. And so I think that especially with COVID, right? I mean, this industry was kind of creeping into that, but COVID really kind of pushed it over the edge. And I do think that through technology, video teleconferencing and things of that nature, it's allowed us to all kind of still feel like we're together to make that adjustment. So I feel like, yes, a lot of the everyone's going back to work type of thing has come into play. But we're very fortunate here at Ironbow that we've adapted to that type of work-life balance as far as working from home and using that for some of these disparate remote teams. I do think that with AI and new tool sets, it's going to allow us to become more efficient. You think about ChatGPT and how people are using those things to kind of spark an idea, to get a framework going, to write something, whatever the case may be. I think those tools are always going to be good and efficient for us to be able to be more effective with our customers and to respond to things more quickly. I do hope for the future that this is going to allow us to be able to spend more time with the customer, right? Spending more time with the customer, being able to lean in and be an advocate for them and not necessarily have to rely on having to do some of that back end office work that we know is so necessary for these projects to go round, but that are probably not as visible to clients, right? And the customers care about those things, but they don't see the effort that it takes to kind of put those things together. So I'm hoping that, through AI and through adoption of technology, those things are going to allow us to be able to spend more time having, direct face-to-face or communicative conversations and stuff with our clients. So that's what I'm envisioning.
Amazing. Amen to, again, more communication.
More communication.
Communication.
I know, the 3 C's.
I love it. Well, Cynecia, thank you so much. This was so many good nuggets of wisdom and insights. Thank you again for joining us here on Tech in Translation. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to Ironbow's Tech in Translation podcast on your favorite listening platform. For more insights on delivery leadership, project success, and IT strategy, visit ironbow.com. Until next time.